Donald Trump has threatened to exterminate the entire population of Gaza, and the Western media are lying to you about it. This latest genocidal threat comes in a post on social media, and it is truly disturbing the way that mainstream media outlets are failing to accurately cover what he actually said. It's a disgrace. It comes after 17 months of the media justifying, whitewashing, censoring the genocidal mayhem inflicted by the Israeli state against the Palestinian people with Western weapons and Western support. Now, the key genocidal element comes at the end of Donald Trump's post, but I will go through it all because there's important points to be made before that particularly hideous part. Now, onto his social media network, he posts, "Shalom Hamas" means hello and goodbye. You can choose. Release all of the hostages now, not later, and immediately return all of the dead bodies of the people you murdered, or it is over for you. Only sick and twisted people keep bodies, and you are sick and twisted. Okay, let me just pause there. On this, boy, is Donald Trump going to be mad when he finds out how many bodies are kept by the Israeli state, bodies of Palestinians. As Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur on the occupied territories, wrote in a report for the United Nations General Assembly Human Rights Council in mid-2023, that is before the 7th of October, the deprivation of liberty haunts Palestinians beyond their life. Israeli forces often withhold the bodies of Palestinians deceased in custody or killed for alleged security reasons. This practice, which the Israeli High Court of Justice has condoned, applies to the bodies of both adults and children. By May 2023, Israeli forces reportedly withheld 125 Palestinian bodies, including 13 deceased detainees. She further added at the time, "For decades, the bodies of Palestinians who had not returned to their families were buried in graves near military zones known as cemeteries of numbers, as each body was assigned a number. In recent years, Israeli forces have withheld bodies in fridges, impeded identification by relatives, and imposed restrictions on burial upon returning the bodies. Reports suggested that the bodies are often kept in poor and inhumane conditions." As the brilliant media outlet Dropsite News points out, Israel is currently withholding 665 Palestinian bodies, including those of 59 children. They note that this practice became institutionalized in 1995 when the Israeli High Court ruled that the Israeli army could withhold the body of a Hamas member as a bargaining chip, with the practice being expanded since. So, does Trump really believe that the Israeli state are sick and twisted for keeping bodies? They keep bodies on an industrial scale. Should we not agree that all bodies and hostages should be released, Palestinian and Israeli alike, as part of a permanent ceasefire? I don't know, just putting it out there, Mr. Trump. Let's continue. Donald Trump says, "I am sending Israel everything it needs to finish the job. Not a single Hamas member will be safe if you don't do as I say. I've just met with your former hostages whose lives you have destroyed. This is your last warning. For the leadership, now is the time to leave Gaza while you still have a chance." Well, in context, Donald Trump has just approved a further nearly $3 billion arms shipment to Israel, bypassing the normal congressional review, having already approved overall now nearly £12 billion worth since he became president. That includes the £2,000 bombs, which are responsible for the mass slaughter in particular of Palestinian civilians. Now, in practice, as Antony Blinken, the bloodstained former Democratic Secretary of State, noted back in January, all that slaughter since October 2023 had achieved was, according to the US estimates, Hamas recruiting almost as many fighters as it had lost. The key plank of Israeli strategy, in theory, or what they actually said in theory, was to defeat Hamas, to crush Hamas. Not even close. What Trump means itself in practice here would be genocidal. Before I read the final hideous part of his post, because it simply means more violence than ever, with Israel arbitrarily using Hamas as a catch-all term and then slaughtering huge numbers of civilians with each strike on those supposed targets. And given that death and destruction means more recruits for Hamas, from those traumatized by the murder of their loved ones, it just means never-ending slaughter. But let me just read the final part of what Donald Trump says. Also, to the people of Gaza, a beautiful future awaits, but not if you hold hostages. If you do, you are dead. Make a smart decision. Release the hostages now, or there will be hell to pay later. Right. Let's just process that, shall we? Just to begin with, by beautiful future, he means the violent expulsion of the entire Palestinian population of Gaza from their own homeland. Trump is committed to permanently driving out that entire civilian population to some unknown destination. He doesn't have a destination. In practice, that forced removal would itself require incalculable violence and death. It is genocidal in its aim, which is to erase Gaza as a Palestinian territory so it can be turned into a giant casino for Donald Trump and his friends. But his statement clearly means that if Hamas do not release hostages, then the civilian population of Gaza will be held to account in the form of being killed. He is saying Israeli hostages must be released immediately, or the civilian population will pay the price in the form of death. The misrepresentation of this in the media is quite something. Let me give you some examples, because you do need to know that you are being lied to. You're being literally, the truth is being literally withheld from you. I mean, that's not an exaggeration. The Sky News headline says, Trump tells Hamas you are dead if Israeli hostages are not immediately handed over. Well, now, how have they even managed to come up with that headline? The you are dead part of the post is very clearly addressed to the people of Gaza, not to Hamas. It goes on to say that in the first sentence, again, listen, US President Donald Trump has told Hamas to hand over Israeli hostages or you are dead. This is false. He's not saying that to Hamas. He didn't tell Hamas that. It says the people of Gaza, the you are dead bit. The Daily Mail headline is Trump tells Hamas, you are dead, as he warns terror group, I'm sending Israel everything it needs to finish the job in Gaza. Again, just to be clear, Donald Trump did not address that to Hamas. I've read you the post. You can read the post. The New York Times, the celebrated, genteel New York Times, does the same thing. Straightforward disinformation. The headline is Trump gives last warning in quotes to Hamas, release hostages or face annihilation. The subheading is, in a blistering social media post, the president told Hamas that if it continues to hold hostages, you are dead. False. It then says in the text of the article, this is your last warning, he went on, adding that if the group continues to hold hostages, you are dead. What the hell is this about? What was going on there? They know they're not telling the truth there. That's not what the post says. He didn't say to Hamas, you are dead. He didn't say that. He clearly poses you are dead as a threat to the people of Gaza. He says to the people of Gaza. In the BBC article, the headline is, Trump issues last warning to Hamas as US confirms direct hostage talks. And then several paragraphs in, the BBC writes, he also appeared to issue a wider threat. Also, to the people of Gaza, a beautiful future awaits, but not if you hold hostages. If you do, you are dead. Firstly, what's this appears to? What's this mealy-mouthed nonsense from the BBC? What do you mean he did issue a wider threat? It's not. How is it inaccurate? How do you think it's a violation of BBC objectivity and impartiality, which, of course, I definitely believe in? Why is it a violation to say he issued a wider threat? What do you mean he appeared to? How could he be more clear? What was he supposed to do? Put it in neon letters? Put it in bright lights? What was he, literally, how was he supposed to make that a more explicit, wider threat? What's the wider threat, BBC? What is the wider threat? Are you going to explain what the wider threat is? Are you going to make clear in your own language what he's saying? Oh, it's nothing important. It's just a minor triviality of the president of the United States threatening to kill every single person in Gaza. The Independent newspaper is a rare example of the actual truth. Its headline is, Trump warns people of Gaza, you are dead if Hamas does not release hostages. Now, what's important about that headline is it's true. That's what he said. And that is the key part of the story. That's what's particularly new about it. Because there's lots of threats in terms of directed against Hamas. I mean, in practice, it means lots of civilians being killed, but that's something that's happened all the time. Joe Biden did that. Secretary of State Antony Blinken did that. That's not new. He says to the people of Gaza, you are dead. That's the story. Why isn't it the main story? Now, the Daily Beast, actually, let's do this one. They accurately convey the meaning, but look at the headline. Trump's blunt last warning to the people of Gaza, you are dead. Blunt? Is that what we'd call it? Blunt? A threat of exterminating the entire people of Gaza is now blunt. If someone said they're going to kill every person in Israel, would you put in your headline that's a blunt last warning to the people of Israel? Would you? I'm asking the editorial team there, the Daily Beast. Is that genuinely hand on heart? Hand on heart. Look at me in the eyes. If you're the editors of the Daily Beast just tuning in here, would you do that? Would you do that if there was a credible threat that could be executed where the people of Israel were told they had their last warning, and that if the IDF did not release all Palestinian hostages, including Palestinian bodies, that they would all be dead, would you call that a blunt threat? Would you call it a blunt last warning to the people of Israel? Blunt is when someone's just, a bit overly direct in conversation. As Abu Bakr Ahmed, a Palestinian journalist in Gaza, writes, what a horrible statement. He publicly says he wants to murder all of us here. That's the peak of insanity. This is so brazen. The President of the United States has publicly threatened to exterminate the people of Gaza, and the Western media has just lied to you about it. Straightforward disinformation. I've gone through it. Let's not take the piss here. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're lying to you. What I've just shown you is deceitful misrepresentation of the facts. It's straightforward disinformation. All this, oh God, online disinformation and misinformation. I'm not saying that's not a problem, but these are the people who claim to be the guardians of truth. And they're lying through their teeth, not just the right-wing newspapers, but the respectable liberal outlets. And about something that serious, mass extermination. How can they pretend to be accurate? How can they pretend to be telling the truth when they are so obviously dishonest? I'm afraid this is only going to get worse. So we need to start being a lot louder, because this is beyond belief. This attempt to turn the world on its head. And in the age of Donald Trump, when I'm afraid we are going to see horrors beyond what we've already, I'm afraid, seen or in too many cases experienced, the truth could not be more important. Please like and subscribe, leave your thoughts and your comments. That's good for the algorithm as well. More people need to hear the truth, help us take on the lies of this awful mainstream media ecosystem at patreon.com/ownjazz84. You can see us expanding across every different media platform to get the word out. Listen to the podcast as well. I'll speak to you soon.